5 years later, we have changed the industry. 76 transactions that took place over £10 million with 50 different brokers. The market has completely fragmented, but at the beginning it was very daunting. Commission only, you're not on a salary, force a new way of selling real estate. It was massive change, but you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I was in my comfort zone, and that is such a dangerous place to be. She sold something within her first 6 weeks, just shy of 2 million.
That must have made her feel amazing.
Took me 5 months to sell my first property.
You took the risk. Is that something that's just in you?
I always want to win, and if I'm not capturing their attention on their phone, I'm invisible.
Give me a story of something that may have came as a result of social media.
I've got a listing in Hampstead at the moment, off market, 2% fee, £9.5 million. It's 190,000 potential of income because the son follows me on Instagram.
Welcome to Estate Agent Showdown with me, Matt Giggs, and I'm here with the brilliant Benji Weinberger. Is that the correct way of pronouncing it? Benji is with DDRE Global. And how long have you been there now?
So the business was set up March 2020, and then I joined a year later. So I've been there for
quite
5
early into the project.
Yeah, when I joined, there was 8 of us, and there's now 52. So I was quite early.
I met Daniel. This isn't about Daniel, but I did meet Daniel just in the moment before lockdown.
Yeah.
As he was talking about this vision. And I've said to him off camera how proud I am to see that what he was talking about has really started to come to life. You must feel really proud to be in the earliest stages and see it come to life also.
Yeah, look, I mean, I get goosebumps when we talk about these things because, you know, Daniel has had this vision for a very long time. And at the time when obviously he left the business he was at before, there was a lot of people saying, you can't do this, you're not going to change the industry. And 5 years later, I say it in the most humble and down-to-earth way, but as a business, we have changed the industry. And it was from his vision.
Yeah.
And to be part of that, you know, I'm honored. I'd like to think I've obviously played a role in it as well, but, you know, it's very special to be part of something like that.
Well, you definitely have played a role in it. And I feel that, you know, we're going to come on to that in a minute. But just on that point you made about changing, where do you feel you've made that change as a business in the industry?
I think if you were to look at, you know, let's say 10 years ago, any deal, I think we've actually got some data about it. I think 65% of transactions in prime central London over £10 million were done by 2 agents, Knight Frank and Savills.
Hardly surprising back then.
No, because you know it's you know, if you're selling an asset of that size, your first thought process is Knight Frank Savills. You know, it's what it's always been. But you know, with the emergence of the brokerage world, if you now look at the data from last year, I think there was 76 transactions that took place over £10 million with 50 different brokers. So if that doesn't show that the market has completely fragmented away from the traditional way of selling an asset like that, then I don't know what it is.
That's a really good point. That's really good data to know as well. Because
Yeah.
I think I live an hour north on the train ride in Cambridgeshire.
Okay.
And I said a minute ago, I've been in the agency world for 30 years, which is still a bit weird saying that. And we always used to call it the ripple effect where we were as to what happened in London will eventually kind of seep through to us, you know. And I really find it quite interesting because the brokerage model, would you say, because it's been going on around the world, but London was very behind that curve.
Yeah.
And when you start anything, it's the early adoption, the people that you got to come with me. Were you aware that Daniel was doing this? And it's like, come on, let's come on board with this. You know, this is going to be perfect for you.
Yeah, I mean, I was very nervous at the beginning. I mean, so Danny brought me into Knight Frank originally. He actually ignored 4 of my initial messages asking to get an interview. And on the 5th one, I just said, look, if you can't help me, I'll ask someone else. And then he set me up an interview. But he's been my mentor for the 8 years when I was at Knight Frank. And I think I was always destined to, you know, go with him when I knew he was leaving to set up his business. But I was very loyal to my boss at the time, who was himself actually resigning. So I thought, okay, this is my opportunity. So I've always had complete faith. And yeah, I just bought into the vision. But at the beginning, it was very scary. You know, I looked at it as a risk and he tried to convince me to look at it as an opportunity.
Yeah.
because, you know, the first year, 2 years of when I was working, well, at the time it was Daniel Daggers Real Estate, because obviously he had to use his name.
Yeah.
But it was
build off of what he'd already built.
correct.
Yeah.
But all my initial conversations were, what's Daniel Daggers Real Estate? What is this brokerage model? And now everyone understands it. But at the beginning, it was very daunting because, you know, going into a business where it's commission only, you're not on a salary, and you're trying to, you know, force a new way of selling real estate. A lot of our clients, and especially the industry, I think, didn't want it to happen because it was, you know, a massive change. So trying to get the buy-in of, you know, when I take on a new listing and calling the other agent saying, I'll share my fee with you, they wouldn't want to play ball, and clients didn't understand it. So at the beginning, it was very, very difficult. But when you're changing something, you know, you have to stick it out. And, you know, 5 years later, for me in the business, I don't need to explain to anyone really who DDRE is or what we do, because they just know now.
Well, they do. And obviously Netflix may have exposed it a touch more.
Just a little bit.
Mind you, you're seeing those Netflix video trends going on at the moment. I think I've just got to the end of that. But I want to take you back to year one, because you've just won Broker of the Year for LonRes, which is the main portal, if you like, in London. For anybody that's listening, a lot of my viewers are probably outside of London and watchers. So that's a pretty huge achievement, I would say.
Yeah, I was very proud of it.
Yeah, I want to congratulate you on that, mate.
Thank
so
you.
just a quick handshake on that. That's awesome work. And 5 years ago, because we were just talking about buying into a vision, that must have felt like a bit of a million miles away. Or did it not even occur to you? Was it just about, what am I going to do in year one?
So I think one of my flaws is that I can be quite robotic, because obviously coming from the corporate world, you have KPIs, you have targets you need to hit. When I joined Danny, I did set myself targets.
Yeah.
Year 1, year 3, year 5. Obviously, it wasn't as in depth as becoming Broker of the Year, because I don't even think when I joined Danny that was even a title. But I like setting myself targets, and I did have, you know, certain targets set out. I now actually have to go back, and I've been there for 5 years, and now do my next plan. But, you know, I always aim for the stars.
Yeah.
If you come short, then you've still done a pretty good job.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think if we're just who we are, and we do a good level of service for our clients, you'll succeed. Like, there's a reason why, although I think it should change, you don't need any qualifications to be an estate agent. You know, you don't need a law degree and these sort of things. It's not an easy job, but it's also not a difficult job if you just do the basics right. Because, you know, there's so much wrong with estate agency and the impression that estate agents give, that actually if you just sit in front of your clients, you're open, you're honest, you do what you say you're going to do, and hope that the market helps you a little bit to go and sell the properties, it's not that difficult.
Okay, so you're listening, you're watching, you're with me so far. Look, like, subscribe, help us to build this industry podcast to something that we all need to see. That's all I'm asking from you. Enjoy the rest of this episode. I completely agree. Is the edge in year one the fact that it's you rather than a big brand? Is the edge... what I mean by that is, when I started my first business 14 and a half years ago, I worked at Countrywide, massive, great big organisation. I had 80, 100 people, 14, 15 offices. I hate to say this, not a criticism, but it couldn't have felt less mine.
Yeah.
Which was one of the reasons why I wanted to move on. There was things that we were asked to do that I completely disagreed with, and it was a case of, well, what were my options? Leave the industry or do it myself? And it was do it myself. I think that moment when you take the step and you've got the opportunity to work with someone that you're aligned with, that's the first part. But you're actually able to look at someone in the eye and say, you're getting me. How much of a difference does that make in your sector of the market?
Yeah, I mean, it's massive. It's absolutely massive, just knowing that the responsibility, the accountability falls with me. Obviously, you have so much more freedom. I think, you know, it depends who I'm sat in front of and whether I big myself up or I leverage off the firm. Because, you know, DDRE has built a massive brand. You know, Danny has built a massive brand and is the best at what he does. So it depends who I'm sat in front of, if they just want to hear about me or if I can sprinkle some things and leverage off other people in the business, which is also part of what, Danny has built.
Yeah.
He's hand selected, some excellent agents in different markets across London and now outside of London that I can leverage off that. So, most of the time it is obviously me, but I do feel so much more empowered that I'm in control of what I can say to my client and what I can action.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously in corporate companies, there's certain rules and things you have to abide by. Also, when you're in a corporate company, you have to do volume.
Yeah.
When I was running the team that I was running, at any one point, I'd have 60 listings, 10% minimum would always be under offer, and I was deal chasing those. So I would have 6 lawyers on either side. You're then going on valuation, so there's only so much that you can also do for your clients. Whereas now, because we're a more niche business and we get paid quite well, I can take on less business, but if they call me at midnight, I'll answer.
You're trusted advisors, aren't you?
You're part, our clients become our friends. I know it's so cliche, but someone moving home is sometimes the most stressful thing that they can go through, and it's also more often than not their biggest asset.
Yeah.
And if they're entrusting me with the keys, I don't want to be seen as the estate agent. No, I want to just be seen as the person that is part of their journey.
But you've raised a really interesting point in what you've just said. A couple of things I want to go back to, but the first one was about collaboration. So we've changed recently as you've just talked about your 1, 3 and 5 years, you're now looking to set your next ones. We're kind of in a similar situation where we've amalgamated brands into one brand and various other things. It's not about me, but one of the values is collaborate to compete. Because I'm a massive believer in using our combined strengths to get the job done, to get the best results for our customer. Whilst estate agency, I think in London is quite the opposite of that. Is that right? But in DDRE, it's becoming actually, just as you've mentioned, talking to a client, you can pull out the arrow of, well, Danny, his reputation, his success, his record, plus the other brokers that you've got surrounding you can all sell with you the homes that you list.
Yeah, I mean, collaboration is at the heart of everything we do.
Yeah.
And for the sole reason that it's the best interest of the client. So as I touched on with the data points, if you've got 50 agents that are doing deals over £10 million and I take on a £10 million listing, I'm one of 50. Yes, we've got good reach. We've got a good internal network. But if I'm not going to collaborate with the external agents as well and share my fees with them, I'm kneecapping my client.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that agents that don't want to collaborate, their days are numbered.
Yeah.
And I'm now seeing on valuations when I'm going to meet clients who are looking to sell, they're now asking the question, do you collaborate? What do you do from a collaboration piece? I mean, we're fortunate at DDRE that Daniel has invested in various pieces of technology, one of which is something called ADVSR, which essentially is, a platform where a lot of brokers sit on, and we can white label and upload our listings to the website, white label it and send it to all the agents, not just in the UK, but globally as well. Because ultimately, let's go back when I was at Knight Frank in St. John's Wood, we were the market leaders and we had 15% market share. I would go and pitch and I would say that because that sounds quite impressive back in the old days.
Yeah.
But now what about the other 85% that we don't have? So if my client doesn't care where the buyer comes from, it doesn't care, which agent brings the buyer through, as long as they sell their property for the best price possible in the quickest time frame.
Yeah.
And the only way I can do that is by giving 100% access to all the buyers. And that's not by waiting, 4 to 6 weeks, exhausting my database and then going out to everyone. It's from day one, speaking to the agents in whatever location that property is that have influence at that price point, calling them, doing them a favor and saying, listen, we're about to go to the open market, but I'm just letting you know we're off market. Here's the information white labeled. If you've got anyone, call me, we'll share our fees. Yeah. And I think a lot of agents now do that. And again, in a humble, modest way, I think it's because we have brought that to the table.
Yeah.
Because the clients now think, well, I don't want to be with an agent that doesn't collaborate with all the other incumbents in the marketplace.
But you're managing it, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're managing the sale, the marketing, the exposure.
Exactly. It's a very sophisticated, it's the cheat code of a multiple agency.
It is.
You have one agent that is representing the client. There's only one agent that's marketing online. But behind the scenes, it's that duck above water, but everything below is, kicking away. It's then your one agent that you put all your trust in, that they're going to go out to all the different agents who then go out to their buyers, and the owner wins. And, it's not about the agent caring about market share or not wanting to give away 0.5%. That's in the best interest of the agent.
Yeah.
But we're here to do the best by our client.
Absolutely. And I think that's the shift that I was talking about. It becomes it's almost like a different job when you leave a conglomerate, a corporate, to it's your reputation that's at stake, but also the opportunity to leverage. Just going back to that year one, I mean, the fear's obviously there.
Still there.
Yeah. And I think it will be. And it is running a business. You never really switch off from that thought of missing opportunities or making things right or whatever. And my creative brain goes off in all sorts of directions. Year one, just give me a bit of an overview of it, because I'm really fascinated about how you go from a really strong, solid base of a career to going, fuck that. I'm going into this model. I'm taking a chance and I'm not going to get commission. Sorry, I'm not going to get any security. It's the complete opposite.
Yeah, look, it was
How did you do it?
It was difficult, and I had, many conversations with my family. On paper, if you look at the upside, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
You work out the commissions, the level of properties at that point, even still, that Daniel was dealing with. But it's even now, as I said, it's scary. But year one, I was very fortunate that I was supported by Daniel quite a lot. That's the truth. Obviously, he was trying to build a business. He was still getting, beautiful listings at very expensive prices that I was handling. So I think I had a soft landing, in truth.
Yeah.
It was only really kind of year 2, year 3, where the business was starting to grow, and understandably, Daniel had to also help the new agents that were coming into the business. So I think year 1 and year 2 for me, ironically, were some of the better years, because it was easier, because I had that support from Daniel. I still obviously do, but now with 52 people in the business, where, previously, for example, if there was a listing in an area that I didn't necessarily know, I would still get it and work on it with him, because there was no one else in the business.
Yeah.
Now we have area experts in Marylebone, in Notting Hill, in Chelsea, at XYZ, that won't then come to me.
Yeah.
So the truth is, my year 1 was really year 2 or year 3.
Yeah.
And it was difficult.
That's interesting.
It was really,
what was
really
that
difficult.
Like? What did you then change or do differently?
Worked harder.
Yeah.
Had to work smarter.
Because there's no option. The boat's burned a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. The tap in a way had turned off, but I needed that.
Yeah.
There's only so long that I could have leveraged off Daniel and his network to truly become my own agent and, pitch how I pitch and, start building myself. But it was really, really difficult. Going out to win listings. But, I think the key of the whole brokerage thing is not just, there's so many different hats that you have to wear, as I'm sure you know. There's a marketing hat, there's an accountant hat, there's pitching, there's negotiating, there's so many different things that I think it's a reason why a lot of agents want to take the leap away from the corporate to the broker world.
Yeah.
Because they might be a really good negotiator.
Yeah.
Or they might be amazing on valuations and convince anyone to go and work with them.
Yeah.
But that's only one piece of the jigsaw. So I think in year 2, year 3, it was really, honing in on what my strengths were, what my weaknesses were, kind of working on those. But as I said, I think I had a soft landing, but my year 1 was more kind of year 2, year 3.
And when you look back at the sort of year 3 kind of strengths versus weaknesses, are you happy to share what the things that, because I think it's interesting for my listeners, my viewers, to consider how you balance between those two things in order to be a complete agent. What would you say you had to improve upon?
I think my biggest weakness was networking.
Okay.
Although I'm in a people's business, I don't like talking to people, is the truth.
I hear that a lot though.
Just the idea of going out and networking with new people that you don't know to ideally go and get new business has always been alien to me, because for 8 years at Knight Frank, if you're going out networking, that's weird because you have to sit at your desk and you get, an influx of leads and those sort of things. So you don't need to do that. Year 1, year 2 with Danny, I had a lot of business that I was helping him with. And then year 3, I was like, okay, well, yes, I've been doing it for a long period of time, but I need to go and get business.
Yeah.
So what I did, I hired a virtual EA who was based in Bosnia, I think. And I went on Spears 500 and I got the top 50 lawyers, architects, interior designers. I set this EA up with a DDRE Global email address. I gave her an email to send to every single person saying, can you set up a meeting, a coffee with me? I remember it so clearly. And I think it was the beginning of 2024, January 2024, when Chiltern Firehouse was still open before it
Crikey.
burned.
That's where I met Dan, actually.
Oh, really?
Danny, yeah,
Well, that's why I went, because that's where he used to go, and it was quite a cool place. So I positioned myself there, and for about 3 months, every single day, I was having 2 or 3 coffees, just throwing myself in at the deep end. And, you get the odd piece of business here or there, but then you go to the same place, you get seen by a client, you bump into someone. So, yeah, I just tried to think what my biggest weakness was and work on that. And then, slowly, it all falls into place. Then you build your confidence. And yeah, I kind of haven't looked back.
I love that though, because a lot of people run away from those things. And I'm a great believer that if you want to get confident at anything, you got to just go and do it. You have to just do it and accept that when you start, it might be shit, but it'll get better. It's in our industry. I often talk to people about getting on camera and they hate the idea. But at some point, they had to start viewing houses. They had to answer the phone. They had to do their first valuation or whatever you want to call it. But most people don't comprehend that mindset of if it doesn't feel good or the fear's kicking in, that you just have to break through it. So I love that.
The one thing that I've learned spending so much time with Danny and, being at DDRE is you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it was one of the main reasons why I had to leave Knight Frank, because I was so comfortable. I knew that the seat that I was sat in was going to do X amount of fees. I was a partner in the business. I was in my comfort zone, and that is such a dangerous place to be. So now, whenever I feel uncomfortable, my thought process is I'm growing because I'm doing something I haven't done before. I'm not confident in it, but I'm going to immerse myself in it, because when I conquer that, it's then on to the next thing.
It's made me really think about something, actually, you just saying that. And, you've won this achievement through hard work, determination. I don't know how they necessarily come to the conclusion who's won. Is there a metric of some description?
Yeah, so I think you log all your sales on LonRes. Obviously, it's got a huge database of sold properties. There were actually 2 awards. I think one was for volume in terms of total value sold, and one was for just numbers, how many someone has sold. And I think I won the one that was volume wise in terms of transaction value. But they track it all on the back end, because when you sell something, you can associate your name with that sale.
Yeah. When I was doing my research though, and I was looking at your profile before we started talking, and you'd have you've had a pretty busy, and I'm going to call it traumatic. I don't know whether that's the right word. 18 months, maybe 2 years. Do you mind us going into that space? Sure. So about 18 months ago, maybe a bit longer now, you lost your brother.
Yeah.
I can connect with that because I lost my brother 30 years ago. So I know what that experience, well, it's individual, but I also know that it can be a very tough place. So what really was going on there, and you're halfway through this change of direction and doing what you're doing, and there's no safety net.
Yeah.
And you've got that coming your way and the emotion that goes with that. Talk to us about that.
Yeah. So it was a bit longer. It was about 4 years ago.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
I think I must have watched a video about it. So
yeah,
it's 4 years
that's
ago.
on our website.
Yeah.
I remember I handed my notice in at Knight Frank, and I had a 3-month gardening leave. So I thought, first month, play as much golf as I can. The golf clubs are very much now in our loft. Now we've had Arlie. First month was very much play as much golf as I want, and then second month, third month, start getting ready to take the leap of faith. I remember I handed in my notice November 2021, and then my brother passed away in December.
Right.
So that whole gardening leave plan went out the window. And then I was in Israel, where my family live and where my brother was, for 4 weeks. Yeah, it was, it was horrible. But at the beginning I was battling. So he was struggling with mental health.
Yeah.
And he took his own life, unfortunately. But the thing that I kind of got peace with, the fact that whilst our whole family was obviously devastated, he was at peace.
Yeah.
He didn't, this idea of two people connecting and talking and building relationships, to him, that, just didn't like those sort of things. He just wanted to kind of, keep himself to himself, loved Spurs, which is weird because I'm a big Arsenal fan.
Oh, God. Yeah. I can't promote Spurs on here. That's a no-go.
For him, I will.
Yeah, that's a good enough reason.
And it's funny, there's been a couple of big Spurs games where I've actually wanted, I didn't want Spurs to get relegated this year.
Yeah.
Because I know that would have absolutely eaten him up. Because
I can imagine. Sorry, my phone's going off there. But okay. Your brother supported Spurs. You went through this really, how do I call it, traumatic experience. And what I'm hearing here is that you thought in an alternative way. Where does that thought process kind of come from? Because I think grief, losing someone close to you, can take you into two paths. And there are two paths to choose in essence. One is victimhood, and I hate to say it because we are victims of a situation, and it can take you down the wrong path. And the other one is, how can I change or use this as another way, a more positive direction?
Yeah, I guess, and also for me, there's another way, which is just block things out as well.
Yeah.
With a lot of things, my coping mechanism is to block things out. And obviously, it was 4 years ago, and it's very difficult for my mum, but more than anyone. But even talking about it and seeing photos, my initial reaction is to get upset, and my initial reaction to protect myself is to just block it out and not really think about it too much. But there's moments, obviously on the anniversaries and when, things are good in life. So for example, obviously my wife and I, we just had a baby.
Yeah.
My brother was called Nathan, and Arlie's middle name is Nate. So the big important things in life that happen, I think about it, and I give myself the time to appreciate everything. But again, as I said, it kind of boils down to the fact that, when I was in Israel, and, it was just it became a spiritual time. And I just felt that, I got comfort with him being at peace, and, I can't be upset at that.
Yes, my lad, Jude, he's 10. He's 10. His middle name's Andrew.
Okay.
We named his middle name again after my brother.
Amazing.
Coming just away from that, you've just had like you've just said, your little boy. How good does that feel?
I'm exhausted.
I wasn't going to say.
We're 9 weeks in. It's hard to put words, obviously, it's hard to put words to describe the emotions and feelings of having a child. And I thought before I've understood from like friends that have had kids, but it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I think it's the best blessing that you can have in life.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than it. And the truth is, I've, from a working point of view, for me, it's put so much into perspective. And I think all of these things in life, as you mature, as you get older, you go through different life lessons, and then it changes you as a person, how you are at work, how you are with people. I would just always sweat the small things.
Yeah.
And get hung up on the smallest of things. And now with Arlie, it's just different. It's different.
What's changed? What sort of differences have occurred?
I mean, I guess from a working point of view, now as a selling a home, I'm now looking at it through a lens of someone who's a father.
Yeah.
Right. I've done viewings previously where it's maybe a second or third floor walk up and they have a baby. Like, I would just call them on the phone and just say, listen, unless you're looking for value because it's cheaper being on the top floor, like, it's probably not going to work for you.
Yeah.
Small things like, whether the husband or the wife is in the kitchen, what's the view out onto the garden? What's the view to the living room where the kids will be, especially if they're younger? And these are things that I never thought of before, and having that empathy from a different angle.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think it's also just, you know, appreciating just what you've got, because,
Yeah.
you know, you can have the worst day at work, which obviously in our industry can happen quite often because
It
we
can.
get so many objections and so many no's. You go home and he sees me and he smiles, and he's just started smiling.
It must be just, yeah.
Like, he's
That's
9 weeks, so he's been smiling for the last couple of weeks, and you go
oh,
home and it's like you forget everything.
yeah.
And then I have bath time with him, which is just the most magical time,
Mm,
and you're not thinking about anything else. So I think the thing that I've actually realized is life goes on.
yeah.
Like, for me, there was no such thing as work-life balance, and I think I'm still grappling with that. But, you know, I was off for an extended period of time. I was off for a couple of weeks. I'm fortunate I've got Tara in my team who,
We'll
you
come
know,
on to that.
who
Yeah.
you know, picks up the pieces and is amazing. But I've realized that life goes on, and, you know, the property market still carries on if I don't answer my phone within a day. I think I'll still find it difficult to get away from that because I am on 24/7, and I think you either have that or you don't. But I've realized that if I need to, I can pull back a little bit.
Yeah.
And when I go back to it, everything's still going to be there.
Yeah. So it's quite a big an important realization that in my mind, because energy is important as well. Like, just coming away from just spending precious time with precious people. It's, you know, the emotions of this industry can take you over, you
Yeah.
know, especially if you've got, I mean, your deals are quite big. So you're looking at, you know, a big chunk of commission. That's a big chunk of an annual salary.
Mm-hmm.
Those emotions that can get attached to that. And if something goes wrong, the feeling of resilience that you've got to find, very, very difficult, very difficult. Now, let's talk about Tara.
Yeah.
You mentioned her when I spoke to you on the phone. So do you want to just tell my audience now, because you've gone from, you know, you're the person doing the deals, listings in DDRE, and you're doing this brilliantly. You've gone into the place of now going, do you know what, I'm going to bring somebody in. Talk to us about that.
So it was ironic, and I'll get on to where I met Tara, and it ties in with the story I was saying before at Chiltern Firehouse. I got to a point where I was doing well, but I felt I had reached the limit of how much one person could do. And I'm always thinking of growing. Like, I could have just carried on at that same level, you know, billing X amount, growing my business, but there's only so much that I can do with one pair of hands. So I made the decision to, you know, look at bringing a second person into my team to train someone, to help them grow, because again, you know, I've been helped massively by Danny, and, you know, I think therefore it's my duty to then go and help, and I'm mentoring some other people outside the business that I'm, you know, hopefully at some point going to bring them into the team as well.
Yeah.
So when I was having my 3 meetings a day for 3 months, Tara was working at Chiltern Firehouse, and she was eavesdropping on a lot of the conversations, and we would talk throughout the duration and those sort of things. But I was noticing how she was with the people in the hotel. And a lot of my clients go there, you know, so I was seeing her with these people who were literally in the palm of her hand. Clearly, she had good personable skills whilst she was eavesdropping on my conversations, and we were talking, and she was saying, I've always been interested to go into property. Anyway, cut a long story short, we had agreed that she was going to come and work with me for 2 days a week, because for me, there was value in her being in that environment, you know, rubbing shoulders with these clients where she was meant to speak to because she was serving them.
Yeah.
But then would be able to have a conversation with them and saying, oh, by the way, on the side, I work at DDRE, and this is what we do. If you have any property, we can sell. 2 weeks later, Chiltern Firehouse burnt down.
Oh, yeah, that was, yeah.
So she didn't have a job, and we had this conundrum. So I took the leap of faith, and I was like, okay, well, let's do it full time. And
Was she
Tara's,
surprised?
what, that I said, let's do it full time. Yeah, because it was, you know, financially it was a risk for me,
Yeah.
with, you know, realistically no upside or reward for at least 6 months
Yeah.
to 12 months.
Probably 12 months realistically, I suppose. Yeah.
Because she'd never done property before.
Yeah.
But, you know, I was of the mindset, again, in a modest way, that I have very good knowledge of the property market, but you can't teach someone how to be good with people.
No.
So if I can train her and show her the ropes with everything about property, coinciding with her people skills, then it will work.
I love that risk though, Because a lot of people could then just go onto the plateau that you talked about. They can just settle in.
Yeah.
Let's just carry on as we are. And you didn't. You took the risk.
Yeah.
Why? Is that something that's just in you?
I'm a sportsman and I always want to win. Always, yeah, I guess taking risks, taking that extra shot, playing that more difficult pass.
I've seen you play a bit of football on some of your socials as well. So you're a
Yeah.
bit of a footballer.
Yeah, I like my football. So I'm very competitive, very sporty.
Yeah.
Again, I'm very fortunate that my mentor and Danny is always pushing me.
Yeah.
And if I were to go to him to say this is what I'm thinking, he will always say, yeah, do it.
Just do it.
Rather than, oh no, be more risk averse.
Yeah.
And it paid off. She sold something within her first 6 weeks. A house in Fulham at, just shy of 2 million.
That must have made her feel amazing.
Yeah, she was on top of the world. It took me, when I started at Knight Frank, I think it was 5 months to sell my first property. So to come in and do it in the first 6 weeks, yeah, she was over the moon. And I think she's just built on top of that. Now she's been with me for 1.5 years. She's bringing her own listings.
Brilliant.
There's a couple of properties that we've both been working on that she's ended up selling,
Fantastic.
Ahead of me. And it's worked out well. And the thing that I'm realizing, because I'm looking to bring more people into the team, is I think I got lucky, because it's very difficult to find good people.
I don't know. I challenge that, because I don't
create your own luck.
No, I think you going and taking the courage to do the meetings for 3. If you hadn't took the courage in the first place, you wouldn't have got in front of Tara, or she wouldn't have got in front of you, whichever way.
Yeah.
And I think you made that happen.
Thank you.
And she made it happen.
Yeah, she did. She's a go-getter. And I remember Danny said, bringing Tara into your team is the best thing that you could have done.
Is it showing the others now where they think, well, actually, hang on a minute, there's people at that level now where they're thinking 2 or 3 years in to doing it, that they might want to go down that particular route?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in terms of agents in the business growing their teams, look, that's something I take great pride in, because the first person to do something paves the way for other people to follow suit. And I think I was the first person in the business to bring someone into their team. We've now got Jess Bishop, who's got 2 agents in her team. We've got... I
know Jess.
You know Jess?
Yeah.
Has she been on the podcast?
She went on the podcast I co-hosted called Property Porn Stars.
Okay.
I managed to persuade her to get on that.
Yeah.
She was fab as well.
There's, Jess is amazing. And there's people in the business that now, see other people that it's doable. And as you said, maybe after year 2 or 3, they've got their feet under the table, they've got the finances to do it, that then paves the way. And that is something I'm proud of.
Yeah.
Because whilst, it's not my business, DDRE Global, but I treat it as it is.
Oh yeah, you've got to. Yeah.
And, Danny sees that and Danny rewards that. So if I'm helping myself, but I'm also helping the business and the other agents to come through, then yeah, I'm proud of that.
Yeah, I bet you are. So just going on to the next 5 years, because obviously you've achieved a lot, and now you're at that lovely point of going forward into growth. There's obviously challenges, so I call it growing pains. I've been through enough of those over the last 10 years, going into the growth zone of in business. What's your next 5 years? Where do you see it? What's in your heart and mind around that?
Yeah, I mean, growth is at the number one of that. There's no way I'm going to sit and coast where I currently am. I want to do a lot more at the top end of the market.
And what's the top end for
10 million plus?
10 million up. Okay.
I mean, look, I'm a positive realist. I also understand that I'm 32. Like, a lot of the agents that I'm competing with at that level of the market are all north of 40.
Yeah.
Most of them north of 50. So I'm punching above my weight. So I also don't want to, bite off more than I can chew. So I think it's also about sustainable growth.
Yeah.
I think for me in the short term is bringing another person into the team.
Yeah.
That's why I say an easy win. But again, as I touched on before, finding the right person can be hard.
Yeah.
So I think bringing someone in who's a little bit more experienced, that can, come to the table on day one with some listings and some clients, I think that's the next step. I think I also want to hone in more on my niche, which is kind of St John's Wood, North London, because, you know, you don't know where your next deal is going to come from. If someone says, can you help me sell something out of my immediate patch, I would probably take that on. But I want to become an area expert, especially with kind of AI that's evolving. I want a 30-year-old billionaire to type into ChatGPT, who's the best agent to buy a £10 million house from in St John's Wood.
Yeah.
I need my name to come up.
Yeah.
And I'm only going to do that if my content that I push out, all my sales that I push out is in line with that. But as I said, I haven't thought about it. I haven't got them written down just yet. But it's definitely growing the team, earning more money, and maybe even getting to a point where, you know, I can take not a step back, because I never will, but just, you know, when Ali goes to school and those sort of things, to have more of a freedom to be able to do those sort of things. Yeah. Because I want to be super present, and I don't want to be that person that, you know, misses things because of school. Like, I want to be there, and I think growing the business organically will probably help me do that.
Yeah. No, that's brilliant. And talking about presence, social media, big part of that. Obviously, my next guest is a personal brand specialist, and you had some work done, or had a workshop or masterclass, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
On that. I mean, how's that been for you? Because coming out of Knight Frank's and doing it for yourself, were you building a personal brand at Knight Frank's, or did you almost start with DDRE?
I started at Knight Frank. They didn't really like it. Because from their point of view, it wanted to be Knight Frank this, Knight Frank that, tag Knight Frank at Knight Frank. People used to take the piss.
Really?
Quite a lot.
Yeah, I've experienced that.
And, you know, when it's something new and you're not too confident with it, you know, it makes an impact. I was fortunate that, you know, if I would go 2 weeks without posting, Danny would come to the office, we'd go for a walk down the high street, and he'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? I told you need to be posting every day, and you haven't posted in 2 weeks. And then you get that confidence and you start posting again. So I started when I was at Knight Frank, but I'd say it's really excelled since I've been at DDRE, because, you know, it's obviously at the forefront of our business. I've got business from it. So I've, you know, seen the validation and the proof points. But also, you know, I've got a good amount of followers. And as I touched on before, I like doing things that make me feel uncomfortable, but make it easier for other people. And I speak to so many people that don't feel comfortable in front of camera, you know, doing the selfie mode, walking down the street, people staring at them. Like, I've been there. But I feel like also me doing that makes it easier for other people to do it as well. But yeah, social media is massive for us. I was thinking about this yesterday, that, you know, it's all good and well having shop fronts. We haven't had a shop front for 5 years.
No.
You know, I can't remember the days of someone walking into a shop front and saying, hi, I'm looking to buy a £10 million house. No. It just doesn't happen. And I think when I was at Knight Frank for 8 years, I think I maybe saw 2 or 3 transactions in that whole time where someone would walk into the office and actually then go on to transact. Nowadays, unfortunately, and I do hate it, but everyone is on this thing the whole time. And if I'm not capturing their attention on their phone, whether it's LinkedIn, Instagram, Google ads, I'm invisible. So you can have the most beautiful office on the best high street, which I'm sure you'll have people come in, but there is so much more proof point now that you have to be in front of the client on that thing. And that's where we have to be, because if I'm not, someone else is.
Yeah. And you found that. You must have found that, because you've probably had clients come to you now through the means of Instagram or LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Have you found that?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's loads of situations in our business where we've, you know, transacted and the
Give me a story. Give me a story of something that may have came as a result of social media, if you can think of one.
Oh, I've got a listing in Hampstead at the moment, off market at £9.5 million.
It's not bad, is it?
Had a call from someone out the blue. He was talking to me as if he knew me. I didn't know him.
Yeah.
Got speaking, got on really well, organised to meet at his house. And I said, listen, it's obviously important for me, you know, running my own business, to know how you heard about me. He was like, oh, my son follows you on Instagram.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, not to be crass, but, you know, 2% fee, £9.5 million. It's 190,000 potential of income because the son follows me on Instagram. And, you know,
it's not a short-term thing, though, is it?
It's
I think this is the bit where I think people get...
It takes time.
They mess up on the the fact that you have to be consistent.
Yeah, and look, you'll speak with, you know, your next guest, and it takes time to build, you know, to build a community, to build a following. And, you know, unfortunately, because of the world we live in terms of instant gratification, if you don't do one post and get loads of leads from it, it was a failure.
Yeah.
Like the amount of posts that I have done where you get an embarrassing amount of likes, you get no comments. But, you know, I've been building that for 7 years. I was doing it the last 2 years at Knight Frank, and then, you know, really significantly at DDRE for the last 5. You know, that takes time.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to just decide, oh, I'm just not going to post. But
Yeah.
you have to. And I've got, you know, so many clients that follow me on my socials now. And that's why I try to make it as personal as I can, you know, talking about Arlie, talking about my football, showing days in the life of what I do on the weekend, because they actually don't care about the properties. My worst performing posts are my property content.
Yeah.
My best performing posts are the ones about me.
Isn't that interesting?
And there'll be people that go on my page that don't like who I am. You know, they don't like I'm an Arsenal fan. They don't like that I play football. Whatever it is, we're not aligned, and that's fine. Like, I'm not going to appeal to everyone, but the clients who want to work with me, they do follow it. And, you know, it's building that community. But as I said, it takes time.
It does.
And it's hard because I even feel uncomfortable now. Like when I'm walking, I'm better at it now, but like I'm getting my camera up and I'm like, oh, are people looking at me? I've kind of got into the headspace where I don't really care anymore because they're not going to pay my mortgage. But I even find it uncomfortable. But as I said, you know, if you're doing something uncomfortable, you're growing and you're improving on something. So if I were to give, you know, advice to anyone starting on socials, whether they're 18 or 50, you've just got to stick at it, like with anything in life.
I think it's such good advice, and I think stick at it applies to prospecting, networking in the higher end more so, I would say. Posting videos, everything requires consistency. And, you know, I think a lot of people in our industry, they expect results for the least amount of work, they expect the most results from the least amount of work. And actually, if you do the most amount of work, your results actually start to compound. And I think that's what happens from my observations of your sort of end of the market, is that there's a lot of people that are very inconsistent in their approach to putting themselves out there and putting their messages out there. And, you know, I think it's a really, really, really big piece of advice for anyone watching, is that you're listening to someone today who's done it for 7 years, not 7 months, not 7 days, not 7 hours, 7 fucking years, right? You have to get consistent over time, not consistent over a week. The thing is, in our industry, it does pay consistency. And it really has paid you back in doing so. And Daniel, before, you know, going back to his story, you know, he was on Instagram, he was there, he'd built his followership. How much of that helped him get DDRE off the ground, right? But coming back just into the space where we are today, and just a lighter touch before we finish, really. You look really well. Football's obviously a big thing for you. Keeping fit, I should imagine, is. And, you know, this job can consume you. Is that fair to say?
Very fair to say.
How do you get to look after yourself?
The truth is I struggle with it sometimes.
Okay.
Because there's only so many hours in the day that we have.
Yeah.
I've got a wife. I've got a kid. I've got a business that I need to run. I've got Tara in that business that I run. I've got friends, I've got family, I've got football, and then I've got me.
Yeah.
You know, this isn't a sob story, but
no, it's real.
There's so much to juggle.
Yeah.
And often it's easy that I can be at the bottom of that pile.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've spoken with Talia more recently because obviously now we've got Arlie. I play semi-professional football and we're in pre-season at the moment, and we've got training twice a week, Tuesday and Thursday, and then a game on Saturday. You know, that's a big commitment. But I've said to Talia that if I don't have that, I probably won't be the best version of myself. Like, that's my escape. That's my space where I'm not thinking about anything and I can really switch off. It's good for fitness. So we've agreed that, and then Sunday morning is her time where she can switch off. You know, I'll have Ali, and then we'll go for lunch. So that's a good compromise. But I think you have to, because there's so many things you have to juggle. I think it's about prioritizing things. So for example, before Ali, I was going to the gym 2, 3, 4 times a week, but I also knew that there was going to be a long period of time where that wouldn't be happening because, you know, Ali was around. You know, that might be something I have to sacrifice.
Yeah.
Because I've got my football, I'm working the whole time. I also need to allocate time for my family.
Yeah.
It's hard. Like it's
is.
really, really hard.
It is hard is the right word. And it's hard to prioritize yourself.
Yeah, it is.
That I think I can't remember the sort of the analogy is, if it's a shit one when you think about it. If you're on a plane with your family and it's going down, who do you put the oxygen mask on first? Everyone says I'd put it on my son, my daughter, my wife, my husband. Actually, it's yourself. And that's an analogy for life. You know, if you're half full, everybody gets a quarter or even less of your energy. And and it's so true, but it's so hard for people in the people industries that we're in to really recognize that, because you're at service the whole time. And I'm a great advocate now from going through those dips and those guilt moments. Certainly as a dad, you know, the first 6, 7 years of me growing the business were probably super successful, but super unhappy.
Yeah.
You know, I'd lose the plot with my kids really fast. Not because they were doing anything outrageous. It's because I was stressed. Nothing else. And now I look back, in the last 4, 5, 6 years, I've got a great relationship with my kids. They take the piss out of me all the time. And it's nice that you paid me a compliment with my trainers today, because Ollie, my media man, he was a bit unsure of them. I didn't wear them for a month because I knew the kids would take the piss out of me, and both daughters didn't let me down, you know, and Jude, my boy, he was semi-supportive. But, you know, I've got a great relationship with them now because I'm much better at just, when I'm there, as opposed to I'm there, but I'm not there, if that makes sense.
I know exactly what you mean.
Don't get me wrong, I've got this brain that takes you off in all sorts of directions. So I could be on holiday and all of a sudden I've zoned out because I've got a thought in my mind.
Exactly the same. I get it.
Do you know what I mean?
100%.
But that's also one of the reasons why we do the things that we do, and we're on the holidays that we're on, you know. So it's a real fine line, fine balance.
I think the key thing for me on that is the communication piece.
Yeah.
Whether it's with your partner, whether it's people at work.
Yeah.
I think as long as you're communicating and everyone knows where you stand and what you're going through, you can't go too far wrong. But if you're acting in a certain way, but you're not communicating why, that's where they jump to the wrong conclusions.
You sound like my wife, which is magic, because she just says the same thing. She goes, "Just tell me," you know, and it's like, oh, I didn't even think of that, you know. But what you said to your wife about football, I think, you know, we're all built differently. We all have things that give us the release. And I think you need a release when you're running your own business or you're in an industry like real estate. And, you know, I'm really, really privileged to have had you come over today.
Thank you.
I know it's been a bit like, it's not just an easy quick in and quick out when you come into Farringdon and you're driving, and you've had the 8 weeks injections for your boy today, and he was good. You sound like you've got a really good thing going, and you should be proud of yourself. So I'm going to say it. Congratulations, Benji, on what you've done so far, and let's keep in touch.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on.
Thank you for having me.
Estate Agent.
I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you.